Hello, welcome to Region Weather Live, your YouTube source for weather across the Dakotas and Minnesota. I'm meteorologist Brad Warner, and we've got a little bit of a busy week ahead of us. To start off the week here, we already got some snow moving across North Dakota and northern Minnesota that's going to persist on into Monday. For Tuesday, again, a little bit of quick hitting system that's going to bring some light snow across southern parts of South Dakota and Minnesota. But then Thursday's kind of the one to watch that could bring plenty of snow across parts of the Dakotas and Minnesota. So let's go on and take a look. So I always like starting off by taking a look at the upper level pattern. And as we could see here, starting off the week, we've got this little upper level low that's bringing us that snow across parts of North Dakota and northern Minnesota. And you can see that will push on off to the east. Now, as it does so, it's going to allow perhaps just a little bit warmer temperatures down here in the far southwestern parts of South Dakota. And then we've got another little trough here off to the west that's going to be moving quickly to the east. And that's the thing, that's the little system that's going to bring some light snow across parts of South Dakota and on into Minnesota. And then as we continue on through the remainder of the week, as we get into Wednesday, we got a little bit of ridge that tries to develop, perhaps allowing a little bit warmer air again down to the southwestern parts of our region. Seems like the northeast really never does warm up a whole heck of a lot. We fluctuate a little bit, but it's not like we're going to be seeing awfully warm temperatures up in that neck of the woods. And then as we kind of continue on here, we see another trough here going into Wednesday night. So out ahead of this at the surface, we're going to be seeing a surface low develop and be bringing plenty of snow across our region as this particular storm moves right across our area. And then perhaps, it just depends on what happens exactly on the back side of this, but we get a little bit of a ridge that begins to develop and continue and persist on into next weekend that could allow some warming temperatures back into the region. Now at the surface here, again, we got that low pressure system that moves across on Monday, brings some light snow across the north. Here's that little system, that quick hitter on our area going through Tuesday, brings just a little bit of light snow across parts of our region. And a little more to talk about that here in just a bit when we take a little bit closer look. And then we wait until we get into Wednesday night and Thursday. And there you can see that next storm system coming out of the Pacific Northwest. But what's interesting with this is out ahead of this, it tries to draw some moisture up northward along with it. Doesn't really tap into the Gulf moisture, but still plenty out ahead of this, brings plenty of moisture out over the Rockies as well. That allows plenty of snowfall potential across, again, North Dakota, parts of South Dakota, and on into Minnesota, mostly through Thursday. And then as it begins to move out Thursday night, we get a little bit of wind behind it. And then as we go into the weekend, it looks a little bit quieter, perhaps even a little bit warmer. And so here currently Sunday night, there's our snow and some drizzle and some freezing drizzle in here. Even though this particular radar image is showing rain in through here, most of it's actually falling in the form of snow or perhaps some drizzle type of activity through there. So not really looking at rain at the moment, but is causing some slippery road conditions across the far northern reaches of our area. So perhaps as you wake up in the morning, again, areas across northern North Dakota, northern Minnesota could see some slipperier road conditions. Now, most of this, as you can see, really not a whole lot showing up in the reflectivity, so we're not expecting a whole lot in the amount of snowfall accumulation. And certainly most of this through the overnight hours, Sunday night on into Monday. This is Monday around 10 a.m. And then we get to 3 to 4 p.m. Just some lingering light snow continues across northern parts of Minnesota through the day on Monday. But again, not a whole lot to concern out of this. We will have some little bit gustier winds out of the northwest, and that kind of picks up as we go through the day. This is the morning hours around 10. This is 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. You can see how those 25 to 30 mile per hour winds begin to push eastward. So we're going to be dealing with a little bit of drifting, perhaps some blowing with this, but all in all, it's not going to be too bad. It's just, again, something we'll just kind of be a little bit concerned about, mainly across the north. And just a little look at what we're expecting for with this snowfall through here Sunday on into Monday. Again, not do a whole lot with these areas in blue. We're just looking at basically a trace to 1 inch, and then some of these areas a little bit further to the north, 1 to possibly 3 inches of snow up into the far northern reaches of North Dakota, northwest Minnesota. Perhaps some locally higher amounts in some of these areas, but by and large, that's kind of what we're looking at for the most part with this first little system. Now, as we get into Monday night and Tuesday, we have this system kind of pulling off the southern Rockies more so, but perhaps just stretching out a little bit of moisture across southeast or southwestern parts of North Dakota, northwest South Dakota, and then kind of down into southeast South Dakota, perhaps southern parts of Minnesota as well. Now, looking at the National Weather Service out in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, they seem to have a little bit of concern perhaps, and I can see maybe what they're looking at. We got just a little bit extra stretching right in through here going on in the far southeastern parts of South Dakota. So what they're kind of concerned about is if we get just a very, very narrow band of snow developing, that while most areas won't pick up more than 1 inch, perhaps 2, there's that outside chance that if we get just a small little band developing, that some areas could pick up a little bit more, perhaps upwards of 4 to maybe 6 inches out of this. I don't think it's very likely, but is something to kind of keep an eye on as we go through Tuesday morning. That's kind of the main time frame. We're looking at probably in the 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. time frame if that's going to happen. Now, beyond that, that system does kind of move off to the south and east, and the snow essentially moves on out, and we're not really concerned about it as we get later into the afternoon on Tuesday. Our area concern for this Tuesday snowfall here, all in blue, where we're looking at a trace to possibly 2 inches right in through this region. Of course, on the Black Hills, they don't like to be left out too often, so you might see some snow in the higher elevations of the Black Hills as well. And as I was talking, there's kind of our area of possibly concern here where we could get some locally higher amounts above 2 inches, maybe 4, perhaps outside chance of 6. Again, not too concerned about it, but we'll just kind of put that little mention in there somewhat because the Sioux Falls Weather Service was talking about it. So felt it was worth at least a caution, word of caution to put that in just to make sure everybody is aware of that. We get into Wednesday night and through Thursday. Now, normally when we're talking 3, 4, 5 days out, I don't like to get a whole, too specific this early, but gosh, models are sure coming into an agreement with this particular storm system. So obviously there is definitely something there. There's definitely something coming. So we're going to kind of take an early look as to get the timing and just where we're looking at the best possibility for seeing some snow. So we're going to start off already here Wednesday, late Wednesday afternoon, perhaps a little bit of snow, maybe even a little bit of freezing drizzle to start off in the southwestern parts of North Dakota. Again, sometimes that freezing drizzle doesn't always show up or rarely shows up on the models, but definitely a possibility with this one as we start off and we go into Wednesday, late Wednesday afternoon, and we continue this along. We get into about 9-10 p.m. We're already starting to see a fair amount of snow push into western parts of North Dakota, kind of along the Missouri River and just westward of that, going into Williston, just making its way into Minot by this point. And again, perhaps a little bit of drizzle or freezing drizzle or perhaps a little bit of sleet. We actually have a little warm front out ahead of this, and with all this warm air, moist air getting up, ridden up over the top of this frontal boundary, that's what's causing all this snow. And a lot of times when it's real close to the frontal boundary, that snow can be moderate to perhaps even heavy at times. And of course, south of that boundary, it's a little bit warmer. So we're seeing that potential of the freezing drizzle, maybe some freezing rain or sleet. Now, as we get into the midnight hour, Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, that frontal boundary moves just a little bit further to the north and east. That snow band, obviously right along with it, just begins to move into the Devil's Lake and James River Valley area across parts of North Dakota. Right north of that frontal boundary is where we're concerned once again of that moderate to heavy snow. And then south of that, where we're looking at that maybe the freezing drizzle or sleet. Again, wouldn't be surprised if out ahead of some of this stuff here, we see a little bit of freezing drizzle before the snow actually begins to fall. Now by Thursday morning, 4 a.m. and 7 a.m., that frontal boundary kind of stalls out in through here. And so that's kind of where a good chunk of that snow begins to just kind of linger over us. And we might see some pockets of some moderate to heavy snow. And while this storm system begins to ride that frontal boundary down to the southeast, that snow essentially just kind of gets stuck from northwestern parts of North Dakota down across northeast South Dakota and then down into southeastern parts of Minnesota. Now, once again, south of that boundary, perhaps we could see a little bit of sleet or some freezing drizzle along with that. Who knows if it even gets warm enough across southwestern parts of North Dakota, maybe even a little bit of drizzle or a little bit of rain is possible as we begin our day on Thursday. Now we continue on into the afternoon hour. This is right around 1 p.m. on Thursday. Again, you can see that low pressure just slides to the southeast, and that snow just kind of continues to slide southeast along with it. Now here we're looking at perhaps that heavier snow band just moving into the Twin Cities around 1 p.m. time frame. And then that continues to slide on off to the southeast. And by the time we get to 6 to 7 p.m., most of the heavier snows now have moved off and out of our region. We're left with a little bit of snow across parts of Minnesota. And we get this high pressure begins to settle in some colder air, pushes in some of the drier air behind that. So by this time, we're looking at drier conditions across the Dakotas, a little bit of light snow again in the Minnesota, but that quickly moves out through the overnight time frame Thursday night. And here's what I mean when I say that these models are in fair agreement with each other, and this is just kind of the forecasted snowfall. At this point, don't take the amounts worth much more than a grain of salt, other than let's just take a look at where they're kind of bullseyeing some of these areas. So this is the American model, the European model, the Canadian model. Again, all in all, in pretty good location of each other, fairly close this far out. So it looks like these areas in blue probably have at least a decent chance of seeing some snowfall with this particular storm system as it moves from northwest to southeast through Wednesday night on into Thursday. Now these areas kind of in the purple area, we're looking from Williston, Minot to Fargo, down into the Alexandria, St. Cloud area, Brainerd, back through Crookston and Halstead, Pembina. All you guys at least have a pretty good chance of seeing some measurable amounts of snow. Right now, we're looking at potentially over 3 inches or more. We'll see how everything pans out. And then this area kind of in pink across to Botno and down into the Devil's Lake region has got the best chance for seeing some pretty good measurable snowfall out of this storm system. Now, perhaps the one thing we're kind of getting away with a little bit is going to be the winds. Now, you can see where that snowfall was kind of in through this region, in through here. I kind of want to keep your eye on this. Notice how this quick little delineation between the stronger winds and where the snowfall really is as we go and step through this time frame. The stronger winds stay south of where that frontal boundary is. We can see here through the day on Thursday, some gusts of 50, 55, perhaps even 60 mile per hour winds across parts of North and South Dakota. But thankfully, those winds are south and west of this main area of concern where we're going to be getting the bulk of the snowfall, or at least where it looks like at this point we're going to be expecting that snowfall. Now, where we do see some of these, we're still looking at 25 to perhaps 30. So obviously, we still could see some drifting at the very least, maybe a little bit of blowing snow along with it, but at least perhaps we'll get away with not seeing the blizzard conditions, as if maybe some of these stronger winds were obviously moving into that region. So all in all, we're going to be dealing with some heavier snows potentially, but at least the winds will stay out of that area. Now, beyond that, as that storm system completes its way through our area, as we get into the weekend here, Friday and Saturday, maybe a little bit of snow across the south and western portions of our region, but it looks like some high pressure wants to build into our area. So while we're going to be dealing with perhaps a little bit colder temperatures to start off the weekend, at least we're going to be also dry as we get into the weekend. And that's going to be beneficial for those who might have some holidays, early holidays with the family. Of course, we know a lot of people start to do that this time of year where we meet with different families, and that's going to be helpful. So at least we're going to be getting that snow out of the region before we begin to do that. But Perhaps you've got some college-age kids that are trying to get home this weekend. Well, Thursday's not looking like the best travel day if you live across portions of our region, so do keep that in mind if you have any college kids trying to make their way home for the holidays. So I'll try to get another video out by Tuesday just to kind of give you an update of what we're looking at for accumulations and timing of everything, just because it does look like this storm system begins to move into our far western portions of our region by Wednesday, late Wednesday afternoon already, and then moves into our region, most of our region, Wednesday night and into Thursday. So like I said, I'll try to get something out by Tuesday for sure, so everybody has an update on what to expect for the remainder of the week. All right, everybody, for Region Weather Live, I'm meteorologist Brad Warner. Everybody, have a good day.